And a good morning to everyone. We're so excited to be here again.
So today we're going to talk about how you can love people through triggers and how you can step back and be an observer, and we're going to go on into all that. But when you're going back and forth being triggered, how can you stay in the space of unconditional love while you're being triggered and while other people are being triggered?
Okay. So lots of different things have surfaced with that. Because we talked about briefly the thoughts. So when you're being triggered, you blame somebody else. And so, what are those thoughts that are going on in your mind in blaming them? Usually, when you're blaming somebody, you're really pushing out a lot of hate and discomfort and upset energy. Okay. And so, those thought patterns, being aware of what I'm thinking after I'm triggered, is um, is huge. How we talk to ourselves, self-talk is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So I've recently been married for 2 years, and oh, yes, and almost 6 months ago, something minute happened, and my self-talk was out loud and horrific. Like, I don't talk to myself like this, and I couldn't stop talking, and it was horrible, and it was getting worse as I was talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Charlotte, what is happening? Because you can let these things go.
Yeah.
And it was all verbal, out loud. And after about 3 minutes of this horrible out loud talking, I feel two arms on my on my shoulders and arms, rubbing my arms, soothing me, saying, "It's okay. Like, don't talk like this to yourself." And it was so beautiful that my husband came and verbally said, "I don't like this communication." And so, what I realized at that moment, it wasn't my self-talk, but my husband had some negative self-talk. And in him hearing it come out of my mouth, it it didn't feel right. And so now that can be transferred over into his life. And when he starts to have this negative self-talk, it's not going to feel right. And so he's going to start to be more gentle with yourself. So really, through this process of loving each other and having these amazing experiences, and then figuring out, oh my goodness, this is why it played out. You are on an adventure every single day.
Yes, very true. Okay, so
I kind of took us off track a little, but I think we're right on track.
Yeah,
that's going to happen a lot. Okay, so what I had to do is continually verbalize, but I also became an observer of and started asking all of these questions at the exact same time that I couldn't stop it from audibly coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes when you're in a triggered situation, you're going to automatically kind of feel like that, where I can't stop what's happening, and I'm like, what in the world is happening? Those questions that you're asking, so that's helping you to step into more of the observer, so you can be more aware of, that's exactly what's happening, is I can't stop what's happening here. I want to, but I can't yet, because there's growth taking place. Okay. So in now seeing me having those, oh my gosh, I'm saying this to trigger somebody and I can't stop myself. When you're seeing somebody be triggered, you can understand that they're going through that same process, going, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be triggering you and I don't know why. Yeah. And why isn't me? Why did I say yes to triggering you?
Okay, so it's all, you can use that in both being the person being triggered and not being triggered, because Yeah, like if, okay, so let's say you trigger me,
Yeah.
I can become the observer and just start asking myself questions like, oh, why is she in this space?
Mhm.
What must she be going through?
Mhm.
Because I feel like we typically tend to, well, it's the victim. We put ourselves as the victim of like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, well,
Mhm.
what did, that you get defensive. And so
Mhm.
instead, it's asking questions of why it's actually happening.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, most of the time, well, would you say 100% of the time, if you were to say, is this even about me?
Well, I'm going to take you right to how many group settings have we been in? And one of my favorite things to do is to watch what your experience is in these group settings because you start to get a little upset. And we've had to talk about that because of how much of a protector you are and how much you love and how much you know me. And you're like, oh my gosh, like these people don't understand who you are. and, and then that is, oh my gosh, that has been one of my favorite things. And then we get to talk about like all of these beautiful triggers that are taking place are people asking, you and Janica have something that we don't. And so everybody in that group is in a totally different space of learning how to love this deeply and this, the word wants to be profoundly.
Yeah.
And people pick up on it even when we're not talking.
Mm-hmm.
People, wow, like you guys
Yeah.
have a connection.
Well, and that's why I wanted to do these specifically because it's like it's communication more than communication. So it's we are sharing who we are and what we do. But
and we celebrate it.
Yes.
That's the fun. Everybody misses that part.
It's true.
So
it's true.
Celebrating love,
Yes.
celebrating connection, celebrating life.
Okay, that's hilarious that you brought that up because I do. I go into I kind of like just I get annoyed and start getting a little angry
You do.
in those situations.
Mhm.
So something for me, that's hilarious that you brought that up because I didn't well, of course you knew I but I didn't realize that that's what I was doing a lot. Well, I did know. So something that I can work on though in those settings as far as like, because like you said, everybody is in a different place, and so that's why we get to understand triggers and that's how I can unconditionally love them.
Yes.
Number one, taking responsibility for myself and saying, okay, what is it that I'm feeling and why, and also stepping back. And in that situation, I could have done that and then turned and become the observer of what was going on and seeing. That's a cool thing.
Because of your sight.
Yes.
You have amazing sight. You can go into every single connection and go, oh, let me look at Char's connection with that person. Oh my goodness, there's the block that they are wanting to remove from their life so that they can have this. That's why it's so much fun to be in group settings with you. Oh, the secret's out.
Yes.
Some of them might be watching.
That's so funny.
And we love you.
Okay, yeah. But in general, like me being able to understand myself. So once I'm understanding more of myself and saying, okay, this is what's going on, this is the connection, because it is, I get very protective of you. Because I see you at such a level, and the fact that you do trigger people a lot, and you just let it, like, I'm trying to think, so many times she's like, yeah, I did that, it was amazing.
Okay, so you're bringing up a beautiful topic. So I happen to be a Virgo Libra. And Libras run away at conflict. So I've had to learn how to sit in conflict. And so the most beautiful thing, when there is a conflict going on, I've been able to see, oh my gosh, that person is asking for something within me that I'm expressing that they don't know how to get. And so for the first time in their life, they're expressing these words, and there has to be intensity that comes out with these words. And what's beautiful is they can have any emotion there, but the exact opposite is passion. Like they're really passionate about wanting this.
Yeah.
I want to live.
Yeah.
So with so much love and happiness.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get there. Well, there's usually a pretty long list of reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're expressing these things, and it's coming out as if they have been living that way. And I go, yes, this is the way you live now. And it really reprograms the brain really fast. So having these conflicts with people, it's absolutely amazing now.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to sit in the hot seat, and not anything that's coming out of their mouth really isn't about me. And that's how come my favorite catch saying is, I love you enough to allow you to be as angry as you need to be at me.
Yes.
Without violence.
Yeah.
And usually with children, they'll go, I'm not mad at you. And I'm like, I know. And then they'll say, but this is what I'm mad at. And then we can get to clearing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the huge thing with, like you said, so being able to sit in the emotion or energy that somebody may be portraying or projecting at you, but it's like you sit in the observer seat.
Yeah.
And it's like you're in the middle of it, but you're still the observer of everything that's going on, especially with kids. And my kids, like, I don't have to get hurt or upset because they're just expressing that. And that's how I can stay in unconditional love with my kids.
Yes.
Is just knowing that whatever they're expressing towards me is as moms,
their intensity. So you can go even into a visual of there being a volcano, and they're having to have this kind of release so that they feel better.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to feel better until they express these words.
Yes.
There was one night that I couldn't sleep, and I turned around and screamed into my pillow, and had no clue that was what was going to be coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And so, and this was years and years and years ago, so I hurry and go into prayer like, oh my gosh, please forgive me for, I did not mean to have these feelings and emotions, and I totally fell asleep before I could finish the prayer. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It meant, I mean, that's a pretty profound learning experience right there, that I am not holding these, you had a volcano eruption and now you feel better, nothing to forgive.
Yeah.
It was a huge moment.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna hold on to everything you're saying right here. I'm not gonna use this against you ever again, because as soon as it's released, I mean, it's freaking amazing to watch lava and what it's creating.
Yeah.
So the energy of anger, it's one of my favorites, because it gets somebody that feels so stuck out of that stuck and leaps them into closer to where they want to be.
Okay, so being able to stay in unconditional love with all of that.
Even in anger.
Yes, even in anger. Well, even, so if the kids do something or
that makes you angry.
Like, I don't have to expect a sorry from them.
No.
That's the part that when you were saying they don't have to feel like they have to forgive anything, because it's just they're allowing their energy and their emotions to come out. And yes, in a parent or a relationship situation, it may seem like they're doing it at you, but it's almost like they get to the tipping point and it's something, they get triggered and then it blows up. So that's where, as a parent, as a relationship, you can stay in unconditional is number one, not expecting them to say sorry, because they don't need to apologize for how they feel. They don't need to apologize.
No. And I'm gonna, you brought up that word sorry. Apparently I have something to say about that. And so in my world, when contention was happening and really thick and hard and vicious, then somebody is going to, the perpetrator would run to mom and say, I said sorry. Or as soon as mom appears, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Which means that they're the good person, and they have permission to do what they did to me again. So sorry does not even live in my world. Nobody ever has to say sorry. This is our experience, And what are we learning from this experience? What's taking place here? What's happening? What's something new I'm learning? Well, my favorite thing is to get to know people on a deep level.
Mm-hmm.
And so these experiences are sharing these deep levels.
Yeah.
And people will often take me into places where they would never allow anybody else to go, because it is full of adventure. It is fun. We have the magic wands and we're zapping and doing whatever we want in whatever space. And it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about triggers that are happening at the moment?
What triggers are happening at the moment?
Okay, so I just noticed. So this whole time, Char's been saying, "Well, this is what I do. People bring me in to do this," and I felt myself like, "Don't say stuff like that. Don't say that."
Oh.
But I'm getting triggered because Char is celebrating and sharing with the world exactly who she is.
Yeah.
And I may have had an anxiety attack.
So she's picking up on all your thoughts out there.
True.
And
True.
she's being protective of me.
Is that why? Yes, it's
so
very
that's
true.
the trigger. Is people? It's okay to hear these things and get upset, and then you get to start asking the questions of, why am I upset? Like, people can't live that way. I want my kids to say sorry to each other. Why? And I'm saying that was an extreme experience.
Yeah.
But sorry does not. There is no sorry ever needed, because I'm not going to create sorry experiences so I can say sorry and look good. I'm going to create loving experiences where we both know it's okay to talk about the hard things. It's okay to feel safe and loved, no matter what is going on in your life.
Okay, so this is another part that just like, so in any kind of relationship, if you're ever expecting, or if I'm ever expecting a sorry, it's because, number one, I'm not understanding that, well, okay, so number one, that I created the experience because I wanted to grow.
Yes.
But also, like, because, okay, one of my favorite quotes is, life does not happen to you, it's happening for you.
Yes. Yay.
Yes. So, so the not needing a sorry from people is, okay, so if I'm getting triggered by not receiving an apology for something that happened,
how are you going to let that go?
Yeah, exactly. How?
Yeah, you could talk me through that.
Okay, so
it's been too long for me to talk about that. I'm just kidding. Talk me through it.
So being triggered by not receiving an apology from somebody because of a situation that happened where I chose to be hurt. I was hurt.
Because people want to learn through pain.
That's true.
We do classes on that.
Yes.
And so we won't go into any more depth. Keep talking.
True. Okay, so I think I have been expecting an apology because I felt like I jumped in with both feet 100%. Completely loving.
Completely open heart.
Yeah.
It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah. So what happened, I can't even say that it was painful because I'm past that now. But why do I still feel like I need an apology?
Okay, but holding on to that apology could talk me through it. I don't know what there's like 10 different you're in so many things at the moment. I've got to close it. It's just you and me, kid. So talk me through it.
Okay, so with it, me expecting it, because I feel like I'm more so let go of the whole situation. But there is.
Well, you still have a lot of love.
Okay.
And other people. So in a situation when you're expressing love, that other people can be angry because you're not acting like you're in pain. Okay.
Yeah.
Really, are you going to continue to be in pain for how long? No. How long do you need to be in pain for it to be whatever the other person expects?
I'm done with pain. I really am. I don't feel the pain.
You don't have, and you haven't for a while. So it's so beautiful that this has surfaced. And even like it's even a lot smoother when you talk about it.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting is people around you aren't letting go.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, even my husband just the other day voiced how upset he is about what happened to you.
Yeah.
And so it was beautiful to have that experience bubble up for him. So he's learning through he's learning through this experience, going, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like
well, yeah, triggers are like a ripple for everybody around you. And yeah, so going into the unconditional space of me, okay, this is what it is. It's when I get into the space of not seeing the bigger picture or becoming, I like to say bird's eye view for me because it gives me that visual. The bird's eye view of why it all happened and the fact that I do still love people that may have triggered me or I triggered them and they may not be in my life anymore. I can still, and that's the thing too, is within relationships and being triggered, I think the part of it is I'm dipping into my thoughts about the negative instead of seeing the creation of everything that happened for me. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, holding the space of the observer instead of, because it's like when I think it's the observer and the victim.
Yeah. When
I step into observer, it feels good, happy, still loving.
It was a beautiful experience all the way around.
Yes. And then when I go into victim, that's when I go into
everybody hates me. Really? You want to live your life like that?
Yeah. And I think it's okay. So when I hold up the observer, it's okay to miss people.
Yeah. And love them.
Yeah.
No matter what.
I just realized.
And it's okay if they're not in your space.
Yeah.
And so the class that we talked about is like living from this heart space and having it open. And so when the other people are ready to come into the heart instead of, oh, I want you to feel pain.
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as they can stand in that space of love with you, they can come right back into your life.
That just cleared all that up. Yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing about self-love too, into that space of unconditional love. You are unconditionally loving yourself in the trigger scenarios just as much as you're unconditionally loving them. It is, and that's what helps you get through those things is me being the observer of everything that's going on.
Yes.
Instead of stepping into victim or hurt or pain or negated, heated, whatever.
Yeah. So I've even I've have minimal to no contact with my family, and the thing that they don't understand is I can love them, and I have voiced it several times. I can love you more because I am who I am, and I can't be who you expect me to be. I can't. So now I go in, and anytime I trigger my family, I say, "Whoops! I'm just giving you another opportunity for unconditional love." That's all, because I love them so much.
Yeah. Okay. So with the triggering, another thing with being the observer is you're actually expanding, and when you stay in that expansiveness of unconditional love.
Yes.
Okay. So if I were to go back into victim and not wanting and like stepping on eggshells, my love would close off.
Well, it's different. It's a different kind of love. You get to speak a totally different language in that space. So I'm gonna.
Except for you're not loving yourself by being this. So.
Well, you're missing out on all of this.
Okay.
This is the most amazing space to be in.
Yes.
So it took about 12 years for my brother to come back and have a conversation with me through heart to heart, and it was amazing. He stood there before me in defense and said a few things, and knowing that I just spoke love and calm and had no protective energy around me, and just said, "This is who I am, and thank you for being in this space with me, and I love you. And it was a beautiful conversation. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the like
It's magical.
ultimate amount of love.
Yeah. And this is the amount of love I've always had for him.
Mhm.
But we chose to express it in a whole bunch of different ways.
Yes, very true.
Mhm.
Expression. So unconditionally loving in triggers plays the two parts of making sure that I'm loving myself,
Yes.
but also being an observer to unconditionally love people, because what they're doing hasn't, like, they're not doing it to you or at you. It's just
Yeah.
stuff that is
They're experimenting with love.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, I like that.
And my favorite thing is stretching it just a little bit more and giving them a taste of what is out here. And then they can go back into their daily life, but they remember that taste and they start to walk down that path to get that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like ice cream.
Yeah.
You have to have it.
You just have to. You have to. So this so today, something that would be fun to try is, number one, being aware when you are triggered, but then becoming the observer in situations and finding the spaces where of holding unconditional love. So if you have an experience, we would love to know and hear your experiences. So leave them down in the comments below.
And just one more little thing. To be an observer, you really take one step out, 2 steps out, even 3 steps out of the situation, and you watch yourself being in that space. And that's one way to do it. There's many ways to be an observer, but that's one way to do it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yes, and yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Triggers. Unconditional love in triggers.